Hey guys, so doing a video here this evening, and it's about dog-proof traps and what can help increase your odds catching with them, and some flaws and some things that we deal with as a trapper that we may not know is going on. Alright guys, you got your standard dog-proof trap. Now let's say most of them are one-way triggers nowadays, right? So once you set it, the only way to snap it off is to reach underneath the trigger inside and to lift up. Okay, so we've got our DP, it's set. Now, a lot of guys have this issue. Hey, my bait's getting cleaned out, there's nothing in the trap. This happened pretty frequently. Everybody thinks same thing. It's mice. Well, that's just not always the case. Raccoons can reach around, and some other animals, but specifically raccoons, can reach around and steal your bait without snapping off the trap. Now, I'm not saying it's not mice, because sometimes it probably is. However, I had a client this summer, and mind you, very rarely do my clients actually get to see the animals working the sets, but this client went to the window and looked out, and a coon was working one of my dog-proof traps, and it was actually a two-way trigger, so that's what makes this even more impressive. And I don't remember what I had it baited with. It wasn't cat food, but it was something that it could reach around and grab, and it did. And she said, "Hey, something's wrong with your trap. There's the coon kept playing with it, kept eating, and went back up into the timber, and you didn't catch it." And so next day I go check it out, of course, and well, it was a two-way trigger, and that raccoon had stolen the bait without snapping the trigger off. Alright, so that happens, I think, a little more frequently than we understand as trappers. I mean, because how often, unless you have a trail cam on, how are you going to know? Or if it's recently snowed or something, you're not going to know that that's what's going on. But it does happen. So, ways to improve that situation, right? This DP, I think this one's a Duke. It's a one-way trigger, right? So, let's take that out of play. First off, one-way trigger, a little harder to snap off. Boom. Z-trap, two-way trigger, snaps off easier, okay? So, a little harder to rob the bait, but it did happen. It still happened. So then another thing you could do, in that instance, I was running some type of dry food. I think it was just nuts and berries. And it robbed the bait. So I thought, you know what? I'm not going to change what I'm doing there, because it was a setting where I need to run a dog proof or a cage trap. So reset it, or rebaited it, but I put a liquid sticky lure down in there. So when it reached down, it had to get chunks, and it had to grab around more. And next day we had the raccoon. So that is something you can do. There are a lot of factors to consider with dog proofs. First off, you're going to miss some animals. It's going to happen. They're not always hungry. They're not always craving what's in the DP, right? But there's ways to make it a better situation. Like there where I changed it and added a sticky bait with the dry to make it harder to get. You could change that. Or if they're walking on by, try another food. You can put almost anything in these. Everybody just tries to think of it as a cut and dry situation, like either you catch it or you miss, and that's it. The DP didn't work, right? And that's not the case. You got to start thinking about the whole situation. What can I do to improve it? Okay. First off, running two-way triggers, that's going to help. Now, a lot of guys claim, and I'm sure it's true, you can catch mice when you start running two-way triggers. Now, with that being said, I don't face that problem, because I usually don't run dog proofs past the first few weeks of fur-bearing trapping season. When the mice start getting really active, I usually remove the dog proof from the situation. Now, if I do keep running it, I usually put something over the top, like a clump of dirt or a rock or something, so they can't steal it, and a raccoon literally has to, pick it up off of it. So, I mean, there's just a lot of variety of factors that go into running a dog proof, and sometimes it's not just cut and dry. I seen a post the other day where Ron Jones talked about how they used to do a whole setup with the dog proof, like it was a full-on set. And then, as trappers over the years, we become lazier, and now we just put it in the dirt and put something in it, and that's it. And he had a good point. I mean, we probably are missing more raccoon that way, or whatever we're targeting. Also, I want to talk about, with the two-way trigger system, you also increase the chances of catching a skunk. They have short front legs, right? So with a pull-only trigger, it's a little harder for them to snap it off sometimes. A two-way trigger is going to increase your odds of catching a skunk. I talked about that with my dad, and I talked about that a lot. And I want to catch skunks. Skunks are money. They're worth way more than raccoons unless I'm running animal damage control, and I still charge way more if I catch a skunk. Like, if I'm running a standard job, whether I'm trapping for skunk themselves or not, let's say I'm trapping coon and I catch a skunk, I'm going to charge you for the skunk. It's harder to deal with. It was there. You were probably going to have problems with it anyways. So, regardless, skunks are more money for me right now. So, just a thought. Two-way triggers, honestly, I think they're better. I like two-way triggers. I like 3 swivels on my DPs. And I like to think outside the box when I'm setting them. You could literally be the reason that you're not catching. Is that you close off your mind, you set the DP, and it's supposed to do the work. Well, sometimes you gotta think outside the box, guys. I've been there too. Oh, I got cat food in it, why aren't I catching? Well, maybe that coon didn't want cat food. Usually they do, but not always. So just think outside the box, guys. I hope this video helps. It's just a quick video about dog proofs, and some pros and cons to them, and some ways to think outside the box. Tight chains. Appreciate you guys.